I waited way too long to do this, and there are a lot of books to talk about, so let's just jump right in. Okay, so this is a video covering my manga hauls from July, August, and September, and maybe part of October as well. I don't know if I added those in, but anyway, I'm going to start real quick by just talking about stuff, like you can see in this stack, this is mostly just new releases, stuff that released since July, that I got, and then I'll go into some of the older stuff that I got, a bunch of different books that, I don't know, let's just go into it. Okay, so first, Berserk Volume 39. After years of waiting, we finally got 38, and then 39 was about a year thereafter. I caught up with Berserk in time to read 39 pretty much at release. It's as good as it's ever been. Great series. If you haven't read Berserk yet, it's a good time to get into it, and if you hold off just a little bit longer, they have announced oversized hardcover editions that I believe are the same dimension as standard Western hardcovers. So it's a good time to kind of hold off on that. The first two of those hardcovers is already announced, and that covers volumes 1 through 6 of Berserk. Next, also from Dark Horse, Gantz Omnibus Edition Volume 1. I used to have the majority of the series in the older small editions, but when they announced these Omnibus editions, I decided to go ahead and trade up for no reason other than I needed cash at the time and didn't really care about tracking down the last 10 of the slim volumes. This is a nice looking fat little guy right here. It's very stout. Looks good on the shelf. I like the design choices for it, so I'm excited to have it again. It's a good reason for me to repurchase. Next, you can see I've got several volumes of Bleach right here. Bleach ended with volume 74, actually just released this month in October. I'm a big defender of Bleach. I know a lot of people are not a huge fan of the series, but I have been since it started. And I mean, I'll admit that it got a lot weaker in the end, but I still liked it from start to finish. So volume 73 also, I think that was from July. So these last two are recent releases. I had fallen behind and didn't have everything else, so that's why I have 72, 71, and 70 here with me. I basically just caught up with Bleach so that I could get the last few volumes. I do really want to reread the entire series now that it's all out in the US, but I have so much other stuff that, I mean, a lot of it I'm going to be showing right now that I haven't read, so a reread of such a large series is really not in the books at the moment. Next, most recent volume of Black Clover. I talked about this one in my last manga haul video. I do really enjoy Black Clover. It's very stereotypical shonen stuff. If you're a fan of Naruto, you would probably find this enjoyable. So far, even after 12 volumes, it's not doing anything groundbreaking, which wouldn't be a problem, you know, if this had been published years ago. But right now, Shonen Jump has so many series that are doing so much different stuff that having a very typical shonen series like Black Clover kind of puts it off to the side. But I think the characters are fun, their abilities are fun, the artwork is great, and it's something that when I was reading it for the first time, I was rushing through it, and it really did give me the same feeling as when I first started reading Naruto, and I just wanted to keep going and keep going with that. Next is Black Torch number 1. I bought this one kind of on a whim, honestly, just because it's a Shonen Jump title. There's an alarm or a siren going on outside, sorry, that distracted me. Because it's a Shonen Jump title, and the artwork looks pretty good on the cover, but I don't really know anything else about it, or I didn't know anything else about it, to be honest. And then I found out that I think it's only like 4 or 5 volumes long, and it actually got canceled, which is kind of sad because it has pretty cool concepts and really cool character designs. So I don't know, I'm a little disappointed that it's so short. I'll follow through with it and stuff. I'm just looking for a good page to show for like the artwork standpoint, but I'll follow through with it, especially since it is so short, just to kind of check it out. But it's a cool little shonen action series. And after one volume, I definitely, you know, I enjoyed it. I'm just disappointed that it didn't get to run as long as it could have. So we'll see. Maybe it has a decent conclusion. Latest volume of Boruto. Not much to say about that. It's, of course, the sequel to Naruto. I think this volume gets past the movie material for the first time. Or was it the last one? I don't remember. But it's after the movie. So it's just a couple of new stories and stuff in there. And then the first 2 volumes of this series, Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba. This one's really cool. It's kind of an example of what I was saying about Shonen Jump titles needing to do something different. It kind of reminds me, and now I'm kind of oxymoronic in saying it reminds me of Inuyasha a little bit. But that's a lot of in like the art style and just the fact that it deals with demons and stuff like that. Volume 1 was good. Volume 2 was better. I'm expecting by the time we get Volume 3 that I'm going to really be drawn into it. But if you're looking for something new, a new shonen title, Demon Slayer is a nice one to grab. Good artwork for sure. Dragon Ball Super, just the adaptation of the Super anime. This one is going into the... I believe this is the first part where it goes into... Yeah, it's going into the Goku Black / Future Trunks material, which was my favorite arc on Super, and in retrospect, really the only one that did anything interesting and new. Even though it completely... Even that, it's not really interesting and new, because Future Trunks has been done before, and the villain is just a evil Goku. So, I don't know. Super was nostalgic fun, but it wasn't anything really groundbreaking. But, I mean, if you enjoy Dragon Ball and you enjoy the Super anime, you'll probably enjoy the manga. And then this last one on this stack, Dr. Stone. This is the first volume of a new series by the writer of Ice Shield 21, and it's got artwork by Boichi. So really great artwork throughout. The basic idea here of this, and this is one of the bigger currently running Shonen Jump titles, is that the world 3,000 years ago, all of humanity was frozen in stone, and then now people are breaking out of that stone that's been encompassing them, and it's up to the main characters to rebuild society. So this first volume does a really good job of kind of showing us the world as it is and introducing us to the main players and stuff like that. And I really, really, really loved it, so I highly recommend it, but I've also heard that it goes into completely different directions in the next few volumes. So I'm looking forward to that, and obviously Ice Shield is a series that I really loved, so I had a lot of high hopes given that it's by the same writer. Next stack, more recent releases. So we've got the latest 2 volumes of My Hero Academia, 14 and 15. This is going beyond the material. I think halfway through this book is where they concluded season 3 of the anime. I don't watch the anime, I only read the manga. So I'm saying that from like what I've heard from people. But I mean, it's everyone knows at this point what this series. If you're watching this, you know what the series is, and you probably bought the volumes if you know anything about it. So I don't need to talk much about it. One Piece Volume 87. Nothing much to talk about in this one. Except it's coming towards the end of the whole Big Mom arc. I think that lasts probably for another 2 or 3 volumes. This one has a really cool fight in it as well. Not much to say about One Piece. It's always fantastic. That was a good volume. One Punch Man. This one's another series that people mostly know about. I think now season 2 is upcoming still, but I think that this volume will probably be where season 2 ends, like the material that's in here. I could be wrong, but that's just my hypothesis. Not just because season 1 was 1 through 7, and that it would make it the same length as far as volumes go, but because there's a good stopping point in this volume with a good like final boss, so to say. So I'm pretty sure that season 2 will end here. If it doesn't, then whatever. If it does, cool. I was right. It's nice to be right sometimes. Promised Neverland. This is another one of those Shonen Jump titles that's really doing different stuff than what we're used to. And I've talked a lot about the series in the past in other episodes I've done showing off new manga and stuff, but I'll talk about it again. This is really good, and it's still only in 6 volumes right now, so it's still pretty young and easy to jump in from the ground floor. So if you have any interest at all in this series, I'd recommend jumping into it. As well, they recently announced that it was entering its final arc in Japan, which means it's not going to be that long. I don't know how many volumes it is in Japan right now, but I'm guessing it'll be somewhere around 20 volumes. So if you're worried about it being some long, Naruto, Bleach, or even One Piece sized epic, it's not going to be that. It's going to be nice and constrained and focused. Beautiful artwork, really intriguing story. If you don't pay any attention to the fact that it focuses on kids, it's a very mature series. But it's highly recommended by me. I definitely recommend it. It has nothing to do with Neverland as in, like, Peter Pan, so don't make that mistake. In one of the last episodes I showed off that I had gotten a bunch of Food Wars. I finally caught up and read all of that stuff, and I've read 25. Still haven't read 26. This one just came out. Really enjoyed this series. I was really enjoying it all the way through, but then it wasn't really until the last couple volumes that had come out where something snapped in me, and I was like, oh my god, and I realized some stuff about the plot and, like, the characters and the way that they are that really put it over for me and made it something that not just did I enjoy, but that I legitimately loved. So, definitely a recommended series by me. This one's a little different. Radiant by Tony Valenti. This is a manga. It's published in Japan. I'm hoping I'm getting all of this right. It's published in Japan, but it is created by a French creator who currently lives in Canada. I think I got all that info right, and it also has, I think the first episode might have just aired recently. It has an anime that's being produced in Japan right now. Pretty good stuff. Only 1 volume so far. I think it came out at the beginning of the month or last month or something like that. Really nice artwork. So I don't know so far. It's decent so far. The first chapter was really long, like 100 pages plus, and it was kind of interesting, but then it wasn't until like the second and third chapters that I really started getting into it. So I usually I wait until volume 2 or 3 before I really make up my mind about a series. So not 100% positive on this one so far. So we'll see soon how it goes. But it's pretty popular elsewhere, like overseas and stuff. Twilight Princess Volume 4. This series continues to kind of surprise me because my expectations for anything video game related are like bottomed out, especially when it comes to the Zelda manga. The Zelda manga that are in those master editions that came out a while ago, the nice double-sized bigger editions, are not good outside of just cool artwork, manga adaptations of the Zelda games. But Twilight Princess legitimately has character behind it, and it has some pretty good artwork as well, kind of showing of the the monsters and different characters that Link encounters throughout Twilight Princess. There's still only like 3 dungeons in, and they're already at volume 4, so that just kind of goes to show how long this series is looking like it's going to be. If you're a Zelda fan, I definitely recommend it. Even though I think it's the best of the Zelda manga, I still wouldn't recommend it for anyone who's not a Zelda fan, like, of the video games already. And then Battle Angel Alita Mars Chronicle Volume 4. I still haven't started reading this. I'm still, as I've mentioned before, waiting on the end of the main Alita series to come out in hardcovers before I read this, just in case there's some sort of retroactive spoiler that I would run into. And there's another stack. Oh my god, this one's big. Shit. Okay, so on the top of this stack, these are getting into the bigger volumes. Silverspoon 3 and 4. This is the next series after Fullmetal Alchemist that Hiromu Arakawa does. And it is focused on this character here, who joins basically an agricultural school. And he has no interest beforehand in farming or anything. He's just kind of lazy and thinks it's going to be easy. It's, of course, not as easy as he thinks it's going to be. And so we get to kind of see his misadventures. The first volume I wasn't really sold on, but the series definitely gets better as it goes on. So yeah, if that sounds interesting to you, and if, you know, if you're a fan of FMA, just don't expect FMA, because it's definitely not FMA. But if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, then pick it up for sure. Published by Yen Press. And then Fire Punch Volume 3. I feel like I'm the only person who really enjoys this series. I even saw it on a list of like the worst manga of 2018 so far, to which I say no. Like, it's really dark and has some really not kosher subject matter, especially at the beginning of the series, but it has some really gorgeous artwork and some really interesting characters. I don't want to show off the interiors because I don't want to spoil anything, but check it out. Read the first volume. If you don't like the first volume, you probably won't like the series. But check it out. I recommend it. Dead Dead Demons DDDD Destruction. This is the newest series by Inio Asano in the US, or that's being published in the US. This was my first Asano book, and then I went back and read Pun Pun, and now I also have Solanin on my shelf that I need to read, so I'm kind of getting more and more into him, but first volume was okay, and then the very end of the first volume is when I really started getting into it. Second volume really starts picking up, so I can't wait for the third volume. It's just interesting to see, like, what he has these characters doing. Whatever he has planned for them, it's really... because it's you go into it thinking, if you're not familiar with, sorry, I'm stumbling on words. If you're not familiar with Asano, because I wasn't when I went into it, I didn't really know what to expect because I wasn't familiar with the way that he writes stories and what he does with his characters. Because it kind of subverted the expectations that I had for it. But once I kind of realized what he was going for, it was a lot more interesting to me. And what I mean is, basically, it's taking place during an alien invasion in Japan, and I was expecting typical manga fare where it's focusing on the aliens, but it's more focused on these young girls and their friends and stuff, and how they're just living their normal lives while all this stuff is going on around them. So it's a really interesting series and a really interesting take, and I'm very, very excited to read more of it going forward, after kind of realizing what it is and what the goal, like what he's going for with it. Next is the 6th and most recent volume of Golden Kamui. I've talked a lot about this series in the past. It's just a fantastic book with really great artwork and surprisingly a lot of information about food in there. I've learned a lot about the Ainu culture, which is like natives who live up in Hokkaido and stuff. Anyway, moving on, because I've said so much about that in the past. Not much that I need to say about this, but this is the second hardcover edition of Full Metal Alchemist. I think there's 17 or 18 of these that are going to be published in total. So just, you know, oversized, signature size versions of Full Metal Alchemist with, if I'm not mistaken, some colorized pages in the interior. Maybe not as many as I thought, but yeah, really, really nice looking editions there. Volume 8 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stardust Crusaders. 2 more volumes to go of Stardust Crusaders, and then Volume 1 of Part 4, Diamond is Unbreakable, or Diamond is Not Crash, has already been solicited, so I'm super excited about that. I've already read all of this back when it was being published in the paperbacks in the US, but obviously I had to have the hardcovers given my format preferences, and also to match the Part 1 and 2 and then Part 4 hardcovers on my shelves. So 2 more volumes of that to come out. And then here are some really big editions. Sailor Moon, the Eternal Edition. This is a truly large edition of the original Sailor Moon series. I've never read Sailor Moon. I've only watched some of the anime growing up. So So I've always kind of had that interest in the back of my mind to check out the manga. So I'm really excited that Kodansha decided to release these really large Eternal editions of that series. And then Volume 4, the penultimate Aleta hardcover. So there's Volume 5, and then there's another hardcover collection of like short stories that will follow that. I've been planning on reading all of these once Volume 5 comes out, which, unless I missed it, should be pretty soon around the corner. And then finally, the last of my new releases would be Attack on Titan Colossal Edition 4, and I also picked up 3 because while I've had 1 and 2 for a while, I never grabbed 3. Now, I've read the material in 1 and 2, but I haven't read the material in 3, or at least not all of it, and I've not read what's in 4. So I've been really wanting to go and just reread everything from the beginning, because it's been so long that I've kind of forgotten what's going on, and then just get caught up and maybe read after this online. I don't know, because I don't know when they're going to release the 5th Colossal Edition. It's been a really long time, and I know that like the Attack on Titan craze is kind of past, but I did really enjoy it when I read those initial volumes. Alright, and now I've got not new stuff that I'm going to talk about, and the first stack I'm going to talk about is kind of random bits and pieces of series that I picked up. So first, Ajin Demi-Human 1, 2, and 3. I don't remember, I might have mentioned getting this one in a previous video, but I was recommended this, the anime, on Netflix a while ago by a coworker, and I never checked it out, but I found Volume 1 at Half Price Books, read it, and immediately was just enthralled with the story and artwork. So I picked up Volumes 2 and 3 soon thereafter, and right now I actually have 4, 5, and 6 on the way, and Volume 12 just came out. So I'm hoping to catch up pretty soon on that one. If you haven't checked it out, it is really... it's kind of gruesome. Basically, just there are these things called demi-humans in the world, and you don't know if you're a demi-human until you die. But the whole trait about demi-humans is that they are immortal. But yeah, there's no way, like I said, to tell if you are one or not until you actually die. So the main character dies, and then he's not dead, so he finds out, oh, he must be a demi-human. And then it just starts this whole series of events with him being chased by the government and these like scientists, and there's these kind of ghosts that pop up whenever you have died. It's a lot of stuff, and I'm only 3 volumes in, so I don't want to talk too much, because obviously I don't really know much about it, given I'm only a quarter of the way through what's available in the US. But I am happy with the series so far. It is published by Vertical in the US. It is available, a few volumes are available on in-stock trades, but the rest of it is available on Right Stuff Anime, if you want to grab some of it. Next, I've got 3 volumes of Kuroko's Basketball, or Kuroko no Basket. Viz, through their Shonen Jump line, has been publishing this series in these thicker 2-in-1 volumes. I'm still on the first collection, but I ordered the second collection, 3 and 4, and then it came with 25 and 26. It's 30 volumes total, so there will be 15 of these volumes released in the US. So far, you can see I'm still reading that. I'm like almost halfway, so done with the first volume pretty much, and I really enjoy it. It's not quite as good as Slam Dunk as far as basketball series go, but I really, really enjoy it a lot more than I thought I was going to, because when I first saw the cover of Volume 1, I thought the artwork was kind of meh, but then I realized it's just the way that the main character is meant to be drawn, and that's kind of a trope of his. That's kind of, you know, a characteristic, is kind of how plain he looks. Anyway, I'm pretty happy with it so far, and I'm looking forward to reading through it. I've really found that I have a attraction towards sports manga, so you'll see a lot of those coming up in this haul video. And then I've got 4 volumes of Excel Saga. I got volumes 20, 24, 26, and 27. I got these on in-stock trades. I've been meaning to catch up and get the rest of Excel Saga for a while. I still need to get 21, 22, and 23 to have all of it, but 27 is the last volume. Volume 26, I realized, has gone out of print and become expensive, but in-stock trades had at least one copy for half off because it was damaged, and the damage is just a little bit on the spine was smashed in. So definitely, I'm okay with that. $5 for a book that I've seen going for like $80 on eBay, so not too upset about that. This one I actually just got this weekend at Half Price Books, Kurosaki Corpse Delivery Service Omnibus Edition Volume 1. I actually know pretty much nothing about this series, but I've heard some cool things, and it was cheap, so I picked it up kind of on a whim, and I'll have to report back after I actually read it. And then I also, from Half Price Books, got I Am a Hero Volume 2. Sad story, I ordered Volume 1 off of eBay. It was listed as having arrived, and it never came to my house, and then I reported that I never got it, and of course eBay sided with the seller because the tracking information said that it had arrived at my house. So I still don't have Omnibus Volume 1, and I was upset because I got it for a really, really, really nice price, like super cheap. And I'm also upset because now I have Volume 2 and I don't have Volume 1, so I can't even read it yet. But I've heard really good things about it, and I do look forward to being able to read it at some point. Another thick book right here. This one I got recently. One of my buddies from the otaku group that we're in on Facebook, Nelson, had shown off images from this book. It is from the same creator as Blade of the Immortal, and the artwork just looked freaking killer. So I decided I had to order it. I looked on eBay, and there was a cheap copy for like less than $10. So I went ahead and ordered it, and it looks great. I'm looking forward to hopefully reading it sometime soon. Another random sports series, Yawamushi Pedal, Volumes 1 and 2, published by Yen Press. These volumes are 2-in-1 books when compared to the Japanese releases, $24 each. I got both of them, I believe, for less than $20. I really liked the artwork. I was sent the what's the thing? Loot Crate. That's it. I was sent the Loot Crate edition of half of this Volume 1, which is the entire Volume 1 from Japan, and thought it looked really cool. And I'm kind of on a sports manga kick anyway, so I went ahead and ordered these since they were really cheap, and I figured that 2 thick volumes would be a good amount to kind of tell me if I enjoy the series or not, and I can look forward to probably catching up on it. I think there are 9 of these in America so far, and in Japan it's like 50 volumes long or something crazy like that. It always is crazy to me how long sports manga can go on for. And then let's see, next in this stack I've got Vagabond Volume 4 of the Visbig editions. I still haven't read Volumes 1 through 3. I'm kind of waiting until I get all of them, but I'm also kind of hesitating because I know that it's been on hiatus for a really long time, and I don't want to fall in love with the series and then have to stop reading and wait with everyone else for more material to come out. But I got this at Half Price Books, the same as I got the other 3 of them. Can never argue with half off, especially on something like this. And then another half price purchase is Speed Racer Mach Go 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 hardcover volumes 1 and 2. This is the entire classic series of Speed Racer. I grew up watching the Speed Racer cartoons, so this was something I definitely had some interest in, and I kept seeing it at Half Price Books for years and just never jumped on it. And then finally, after my birthday, I was like, screw it, I've got some extra cash, let's go ahead and buy it. Alright, next section. Like many manga reading kids around my age, I grew up, whether I like it or not, with YuGiOh. And I've been meaning to... I've read a lot of the YuGiOh manga. I've read, like, the beginning part before the Duelist section, as they called it in the US, which has, like, Battle City and Duelist Kingdom and stuff. And I've read the end of it, Millennium World, but I never read everything. So I bought volume 1 of the 3-in-1s a long time ago, and I just never continued buying them. And then one day I was at Half Price Books, as I commonly am, and I saw a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! 3-in-1s for cheap, so I picked a lot of them up, and then I ordered a couple more on in-stock trades. So there's 4, 5, and 6. Just get them out of the way real quick. 7, 8, and 9. This gets into the Duelist Kingdom stuff, as you can see, Yugi and Joey with the stars and whatnot. 10, 11, and 12. 13, 14, and 15. We've got Pegasus on the cover of that one. 16, 17, and 18. And then I don't have 19, 20, 21, but I did get 22, 23, 24. Then 25, 26, 27. And then the series ends with volume 38, I want to say. So there are 13 of these thicker 3-in-1s, the last one being just 2-in-1. And then I also got, and this was really cool that I found these at half price because I've been meaning to get this for a while, Yu-Gi-Oh! R, which was a spin-off series, not by the same creator as the original, not by Takahashi, but it takes place during the original series, in between the Duelist material and the end of the series, Millennium World. And it's 5 volumes long. So I found volumes 1, volume 2, and volume 3 at Half Price Books. Which is cool because a lot of it's not, at least volume 1 is not available very readily online. So it was cool to be able to find it for really cheap, especially since, like I said, I've been wanting to read this for a while. Let me put those to the side. Next, this is actually a really recent acquisition of mine, and kind of random, but it kind of goes in with the fact that I've been really into sports manga, and you'll see me bring up sports manga again at, what, 3 more times in this giant haul video. But I didn't really know anything about this one. Harlem Beat. So I knew about, you see I have Rebound here, so I knew about Rebound because I remember seeing it at bookstores back when it was being published by Tokyo Pop, but I didn't know that it was a sequel. Well, in the US it was a sequel, they renamed Harlem Beat, but it was a sequel to this series, Harlem Beat. And I did a little bit of research, and I found that in the US, this was published by, well, here it's published by Mix, and then eventually Harlem Beat is published in these tiny pocket books by Tokyo Pop, and it lasted for 9 volumes. And then they followed Harlem Beat with Rebound, which lasted for 18 volumes, and that wraps up the entirety of the series. So I went on eBay and I found a lot of most of Rebound. So volumes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, not 8, but 9, 10, and 11 out of 18. I did find out that most of the series is pretty, not really, it's not in print, but it's not, like, expensive, it's not hard to find or anything, except for volume 4 of the little Harlem Beat pocketbook. So if anyone out there happens to find a copy of volume 4, wants to help a brother out, let your boy know, and I would really appreciate it, because I can't find it for a really good price at all. This next stack, I really don't know much about this series at all, but someone was selling it in the group for really cheap, and I couldn't say no. I did find out that this series, World Trigger, I think there's 18 volumes out right now, and it went on hiatus, so I'm kind of upset about that. But I'm still going to read it. I'm just going to check it out. It's got cool looking artwork, but they sold the first, I think this is 8 volumes of it. So there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 for less than half price. Like, I think it was 30 bucks for all 8 of these books. So I thought that was a good enough price to at least check it out and see what I think. And if it's worth me reading it and then suffering the hiatus, like I was mentioning with Vagabond. This next stack, Toriko. I'm familiar with Toriko. I've actually read the first like 5 or 6 volumes, but back when I had gotten married and was moving from Houston to Austin, I sold a bunch of stuff, and Toriko was one of those series because I had fallen like far behind with the US releases and was frustrated and didn't really feel like catching up. Fast forward several years, I've got some cash now, and I found a good chunk. This is like 14 volumes, I think, of the series, for really, really cheap, so I decided to go ahead and buy it, and I'm looking to rebuy I've already rebought what I sold, and now I'm looking to buy the entire series now that it's completed in the US, because I really did enjoy the series. If you don't know anything about Toriko, it was a Shonen Jump series about the titular main character, who is basically, it's kind of like in Hunter x Hunter, where there's those people who hunt for food and various cuisine, and he just hunts for good food and wants to create his ultimate 7-course meal. It was pretty popular in Japan as it was being released. Oops, sorry. And I don't think it really gained that much popularity in the US, but I did really, really enjoy what I had read, and so I'm excited to be able to go back now and check it out again. Like I said, I've got 14 volumes of it here. The lot that I purchased on eBay for, I don't remember how much it was, but it was something so stupidly cheap that I said I'd be dumb to not buy it. It was volumes 1 through 12, and then volumes 40 and 41 out of, I think, 43 volumes total. So, a good amount of the series. And then, let's see, one more good size stack here. These are all books that I grabbed from half price, and they're all Viz signature editions. Starting with Solanin, I mentioned earlier that I had this book that I was going to have to read. I really enjoyed Goodnight Poon, so I'm excited to read this, some more Asano work. I've heard really good things, especially from mentioning him again from Nelson from the Otaku group, who is a big fan of Asano's work. Next, I got 4 volumes of the series Terraformers. I've been really wanting to read these right now. Like, I've, for some reason, been tempted to start reading it recently, but there's so much stuff here that I haven't read yet that I kind of keep putting it off. I watched the first 1 or 2 episodes of the anime and thought it was good enough that I felt okay about buying these books from half price. Basically, it's mature sci-fi horror material with humans versus big alien roach thingies. This is another one where I'm not familiar with much of it, so I can't talk too much about the series because I don't want people being like, well, in volume 15 this happened, so you're wrong. I'm like, well, I wouldn't know that, would I? So yeah, Terraformers. And then finally, the end of this big section of the video, Ultraman. I grew up with Sentai and Kaiju stuff. I never got into Ultraman much, except for there was that one Ultraman adaptation that came out in the US around, I think it was like VR Trooper or something like that. It came out around the same time as like Power Rangers was big. And then my uncle was into Ultraman, and he had a bunch of Ultraman toys. And I always thought Ultraman seemed really cool, but I never was got into it myself. Flash forward, I saw this manga had been being published in the US, and I thought it looked cool, so I wanted to get it. Flash forward again, I found copies of it at Half Price Books, so obviously I grabbed them up. And I got Volume 1, Volume 2. These covers are just ridiculously cool. Volume 3, Volume 4, Volume 5, and Volume 6 out of, I believe there are 10 right now. So I'm not too many far behind, but I have 6 volumes to read, which is definitely enough for me to be able to tell whether I enjoy this or not. So I'm definitely looking forward to reading this one soon. The artwork looks phenomenal. I've heard nothing but good things about it, so I'm excited to check it out. Alright, we're coming towards the end here, finally. By the end, I mean there's still a lot left to talk about. But, so these are all either completed series that I picked up, and then one big run that I just got caught up on, basically. Starting with the shorter of the stacks, A Silent Voice. I found, actually, the boxes at the top of my closet here. When I found the box set of A Silent Voice at Half Price Books for a ridiculously cheap amount, I think it was like 30 bucks, and everyone was telling me, like, go for it, you're not going to find it for cheaper, and it's a really good series. I still haven't read it, but I've had everyone tell me, I mean, it's a Eisner nominee, so you know there's at least something good about it. But I've heard a lot of people saying good things about it. So, 7 volumes long, published by Kodansha? Yeah, Kodansha in the US. And there's 5, volume 6, and volume 7. And then the box set came with the little notebook here. So that was a fun thing for me to find. The next stack, another complete series that I was able to find from Half Price Books. Cross Game, another sports title. I said that I was going to have more sports manga throughout this haul. So Cross Game is a baseball series. I really don't know too much about it, but there are 8 volumes in the US, 1, 2 through 8. 2 through 8 are 2 volumes each, and then this one collects the first 3 volumes of the series, so originally 17 books in Japan. I've heard really good things about it. I've heard some people refer to it as one of their favorite series, so when I found all of it at half price, I thought it was a no-brainer to grab the entire book, or the entire series. And it looks great. It has that really classic kind of style of artwork, so it's definitely something I'm look forward to reading. You can tell I'm getting tired here. I've been talking so long about so many different manga series. I'm getting exasperated, and honestly just pulling all these books off of the shelves and stuff has become rather exhausting. There's volume 5, volume 6, volume 7, and then the final volume 8 to wrap up the title. The next one, this one I bought off of my Omnibros co-host, Luis, for ridiculous cheap price. He was selling it in the group for so cheap that I was like, okay, I was going to buy the box set when this came out anyway, or when it came out anyway, so I might as well buy it from you now and help you out and give you some cash. That's Tokyo Ghoul. So I've never read this series. I know it's supposed to be pretty popular. He sold it out to me for about the price of 3, the cover price of 3 of these volumes. So that said, I thought it was a pretty good investment, and if I didn't enjoy it, then I'm not out too much, you know. So it's a 14-volume series published by Viz through their signature line, so they are oversized volumes. The box set is coming out later this month that contains all 14 volumes plus like a special poster or something like that. I don't really care about the poster, so I went ahead and bought it from Luis. There is a sequel series called Tokyo Ghoul Re, and that series is still currently being published in the US. I believe that in total it'll be 10 volumes, and if I'm not mistaken, 6 volumes are currently available in the States. So it's not yet complete here. If I read through this and I enjoy it enough, obviously I will go forward and buy the sequel series. I know there are some spin-off titles as well, but I don't think any of them are in the US, so I don't know. Maybe I'll get super invested in Tokyo Ghoul and start looking into all of the other stuff, but for now this just goes onto my huge stack of manga that I need to read. But I'm excited because I've been eyeing this series for a while, and I'm excited to finally have it on my shelves, so I can finally check it out, see what it's all about. All right, and then this next stack, I also bought this one from a member of our groups, James. He was, it's a little heavy, sorry. He had it listed for a while, and for some reason, I was surprised how long it lasted before, and he kept lowering the price, and I got this again for a price that was too good for me to pass up. GTO The Early Years, Shonen Junai Gumi. This is the original Onizuka series. This is the one that preceded the original preceded GTO. It was published in the US afterwards, but in the Japan it was published prior. And this follows Eikichi Onizuka when he was younger, before he became a teacher, before he tried to be Great Teacher Onizuka. So in the US it's billed as The Early Years, and the original first 10 volumes were published in the US by Tokyopop. Each one of these, it's a 15-volume series in the US. In Japan it was 30, so 2 volumes each. The last 5 of these was published by Vertical in the US. A lot of these volumes, or at least a few of them, are out of print and harder to find. I did own, I think, the first 6 of them before, and then I fell behind, and it was one of those things that I sold whenever I moved, and part of it was just being frustrated that I was so far behind on buying it, and I was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to catch up and get all of it. And then later I kind of regretted my decision of buying or selling the volumes, because obviously I didn't really get much for it, because I dropped most of that stuff off at half-price books. Great for buying books, not the best for selling. It's a catch-22, because obviously I wouldn't be able to buy them if someone else hadn't sold them first. But luckily James had them for, like I said, a really ridiculously good price, and no one else was biting, so I took that as a sign that I had to be the one to do it. There's a follow-up series as well that has been published in the US. 14 Nights in Shonen, I think is the title. So after I read The Early Years, I'll probably seek out those to follow it up. And then 2 more stacks to get through, almost done. So this one is a completed Shonen Jump series that I passed on back when it was originally being published. And it wasn't until years after it was concluded in the US that I wasn't personally recommended the series, but a lot of people talked about it being really good, and me being all of a sudden into sports manga, could not resist. And then another good price for a whole lot of series is Whistle, the soccer manga. Like I said, it's published by Shonen Jump in the US. I had zero interest in it when it was originally being published, but people whom I trust the opinions of mentioned in various outlets online that it is a really good series. So I've seen a lot of positive reviews, and then, like I said, me being into sports manga right now and finding it for, I think, about $3 per book, decided that it was time for me to get it. So I'm excited to read this one. I really don't have much to say about it. That's about it. I have seen recommendations of it from trusted sources. It was a 24-volume series. So I got all 24 volumes for roughly $3 per volume. And this one's been at the forefront of my, like, my list of stuff to read. It's one that I'm like constantly looking at my shelves like, man, I really want to read Whistle, but there's just like, I kind of have a hierarchy of things when I read them. I need to complete new issues of Western stuff, new volumes of manga, like new releases, and then catch up with currently ongoing manga so I can start reading it as the new volumes release. And then I go back and read older books like Whistle or Tokyo Ghoul or Cross Game. Especially when it's something that's a little bit longer like Whistle is with 24 total volumes, because I know it's going to take me a little bit of time to read. Alright, so there's that, and then here we go, the last stretch. You've lasted this long. Just asking for a couple more minutes of your time. And we'll make it through this final stretch together. And that's for Haikyuu. One more sports series. So this one's currently ongoing. I had volumes 1 through 3 before this, so I bought volume 4 and onward. And got myself caught up so that I can read this one. And like I was just saying, I need to read this so I can get caught up and start reading it as it comes out. Especially because it seems like Viz is really, really pushing out the releases of this series. I feel like almost a volume each month has been coming out. I mentioned before, when I was talking about the first 3 volumes that I bought months ago, that this was a huge Kong recommendation. Kong from the Otaku group. He would talk about this series so much, and then just seeing the animation from the anime made it look so cool, and then combined with me being really into sports series lately, really made me have to pick this series up. Then, of course, there was a really good sale on Right Stuff that allowed me to get it for a good amount cheaper than I would have gotten it on in-stock trades. So it was like an unholy combination of different things that told me it was time to buy the series. I've read the first 3 volumes. Actually, I've read the first 6 volumes at this point. I'm on volume 7 right now. And it's been good so far. It's been good so far. It hasn't been the best, but I've really been enjoying it. I've been getting into the characters and stuff. I have heard that it takes a little bit longer to get into than, say, like Slam Dunk, which is a little unfair because I'm like measuring most sports series against Slam Dunk, since I read that semi-recently and enjoyed it so damn much. But it's got really great artwork, interesting characters, and currently I think it's like the 2nd or 3rd longest ongoing Shonen Jump title in Japan once Gintama concludes its run in that magazine. So after, of course, One Piece. So that's kind of interesting to me too. It's like Haikyuu and Food Wars, of all things, are like some of the longer running titles now. Anyway, that is it. There's volume 28. This is the most current volume of Haikyuu. That brings us to the end of my huge manga haul. You can see some of the remnants sitting here that I've been talking about. I demolished my shelves in my my stack in my closet to kind of pull the stuff down to talk about. So I'm gonna have to work on cleaning that up. I am hot and sweaty, but it was worth it because I had a lot of stuff to talk about. So thank you so much for tuning in to my huge 3 months worth of manga haul video. I have no idea what the volume count on that was. I don't know how many books that was that I just talked about, probably a couple hundred things. I've got a lot of reading to do. I'm going to try not to delay the video as much for next month as I did this time, because obviously it winds up making it a lot harder on me to have to pull all this stuff down. It's a lot easier if I just do it 1 month at a time. But anyway, thank you again for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Or not. If you don't like it, you don't have to. Whatever. But thank you for watching anyway, and I'll see y'all when I see ya.